and thank you for dropping in. Hello, I am Deb Coviello, the Drop-In CEO, and I'm grateful you've joined us for another episode of the Drop-In CEO podcast, where week after week I speak to the most amazing leaders that share their insights with you. And I know through our conversation that you're going to be listening to, you will be inspired by them as a person. And just know that we bring these conversations to you because I truly care about partnering with C-suite leaders to navigate challenges and their opportunities with confidence. And this week, I am so honored to bring to you Gina Tabasso, who is the founder of Barracuda B2B Marketing, is a Lean Six Sigma industrial-minded growth strategist who helps manufacturing, trade, industrial, distribution, supply chain, and B2B companies grow. Her massive manufacturing chops make her different from every other B2B marketing agency on the planet. And it is my pleasure to introduce Gina. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Deb. It's so lovely to join you. The perfect way to end a week.
And it is. I love podcasting on Fridays. I love having these engaging conversations. And when you're done, you just go into the next part of your day or your weekend saying, oh, these were just great conversations and so fulfilling for the soul. So I really, really do appreciate that. But to my audience, we are both manufacturing nerds. We both have our Six Sigma belts, etc. We could talk manufacturing all day long, and we are kindred spirits when it comes to helping small and medium-sized businesses. But she's got an interesting angle how she supports them. But I will yield the floor to you, Gina, and share a bit about yourself personally and about the work you do.
Thank you. Well, personally, I love to start there because I like to get to know people as people, not just people as their businesses or what they do for a living. Um, I am a writer, and so I love to write and read. I have way too many books. I love to do yoga and meditate. I love animals. I had a horse for 24 years and I have two kittens. One is a year old and the other one is 8 months old, and they keep me busy. I love going to resale shops and thrift stores, and I love to travel and I love to cook. I just love to me, cooking is art. I also do art. I do something called junk journaling and collaging and mixed media. So we are all way more than our jobs, and we have those things that we work to pay our bills and do the good work out there so that we can have those things in our life that we love to do when we're not working.
So I love that you started with the personal side because at the end of the day, we're just trying to establish rapport and relationships with the people we can potentially serve. If you just started, well, I started my marketing journey here and there and everything, you kind of blend into everybody else out there that's doing it. And I will say, gosh, we are so similar. I love to read. I don't read enough. I love to write and create. And somewhere along the line, us creatives just became so logical and professional. And we do these things that help businesses, but give me some crayons. Let me cook some cookies. That's really what I prefer to do.
Yep, I love to create, and I'm lucky enough to do it in my career as well. So I guess to go back to the career portion, people always ask me why manufacturing, and my answer is it all comes down to this. When I was in college, I was back then it wasn't called marketing, it was called advertising. And I was an advertising major, and I had these dreams that I was going to go work for an advertising agency and become a creative director and live in London and do all these wild things. And the reality when I came out of college was that the agencies were paying nothing back then. Like by nothing, I mean 13, $14,000 a year. And you had to have six roommates or live at home with your parents. I had an apartment and a car payment and a student loan payment. So I started applying industry side. And lo and behold, who hired me as my first job out of college? It was a manufacturer. They made they well, he owned three companies, but the one company I primarily worked for made vibration analysis equipment for large rotating machinery. So they would test bearing health before the machine would come down so that they could replace the bearings proactively. And then he also owned a division that was a government contractor, and they manufactured the life support systems for Space Station Freedom. So that started my trajectory into the manufacturing industrial trade area.
So that's really interesting, but I got to go here. So where did Barracuda come from? Barracuda,
Oh,
and I've seen your background and all the teeth. I mean, you're a gentle, kind person. I don't see these angry teeth, but tell me where Barracuda came from.
that's a fast forward. So that's a fast forward 30 years in my career. And I was working as a consultant for a consulting firm. And one of my clients, he is a manufacturer. He's still a dear friend of mine. I worked on a project for him. And at the end of the project, he said to me, he said, Gina, with all kindness and love and respect, you are a barracuda. He's like, you just go after it, you get it done, you are efficient, you are effective. You reminded me and nudged me gently and kindly. And he's like, I'm ADHD, I'm all over the place. I would never have gotten anything done. This project never would have gotten finished if it weren't for you driving it forward. And so then, probably about a year or two later, I went to form my consulting business. And I racked my brain for weeks about a name. I had lists and lists and lists. And I just kept going back to that. And I thought, I am a barracuda. I am the quickest fish in the ocean. I am fast, efficient. I do work well. I'm very structured, very organized, very time managed. And my project management skills are one of the things that helps me really help my clients effectively. A lot of creatives aren't like that.
Mhm.
And it's like herding cats. And usually I'm the one who's herding the cats. So that's where the name came about and it stuck and he knows it. I told him, when I named my company and formed my logo, this is all because of you.
Mm. No, I love it. It's really unique, and the backstories are so interesting. So let's go back in time. We're going to confuse our listeners. We're going to go back and forth, back and
We're
forth.
in a time machine today.
I know, but let's go back. So you fell in love with manufacturing based on your humble beginnings. You didn't have to take a second or third job because you're getting paid. Uh, let's talk about the continuation of your career. I mean, how did you eventually just keep going? Because I'm going to pick apart your backstory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, after that position, I ended up in construction for 12 years. I ran a construction trade publication. And then I went to Penton Media, which at the time ran a bunch of trade magazines. And I was the group managing editor for American Machinist, Welding Design and Fabrication, and Gases and Welding Distributor magazines. So at the time, I got welding certified, went to welding classes, ran welding and machining magazines. So all of our customers were manufacturers. Um, and then after that, I went to a distribution company, an automotive distributor, and I was there about 6 years. So I kind of did the manufacturing, trade, distribution, and then that's where I know we talked earlier about pivotal moments in your
Hmm.
career. That was my pivotal moment at the automotive distributor.
What happened? What happened?
Well, I would call myself at that stage mid-career.
Okay.
And I'm looking back on my career and I'm saying, and I was honest with myself. And I said, what don't I have that I need?
Mm.
And as I looked at my career, it was all manufacturing, trade, industrial distribution. It was all for small, privately owned companies. And most of it was still traditional media, a lot of print, a lot of trade show, a lot of traditional advertising. And so I said, what do I need? What do I need to really round out my career? I said, well, you've never worked for a global publicly traded company. You've done all B2B or B2B to C. You need to do some B2C. You've never worked in consumer packaged goods. So you need experience and you also have never been digital dedicated. You transitioned to marketing for 6 years, but it's so traditional and point of purchase that you really need that digital background. So I had a great job. I could have stayed there forever. And I took a leap of faith and I left. And I went to JM Smucker as a contractor. I was there on a 6-month contract. and I got the global publicly traded digital dedicated CPG, and they renewed my contract, and recruiters were coming after me at that stage. And I got a couple interviews and offers, and I went to my boss at Smucker and said, is there any chance of me coming on full time? And I was brought on to replace a number of women who had gone on maternity leave. And the thought was if one of them decided not to come back, I could assume their role. But they all were coming back. And she said, honestly, after 3 more months, I wouldn't be able to extend your contract. If you get a good offer, take it. So I got a number of offers, and the one I took was at Timken, which again, back into manufacturing and steel, but still global, still publicly traded, still digital dedicated. And I worked in 20 countries and I think 12 or 13 languages, managing their global digital communications worldwide. Got some great experience working with parties in, China and India and my overseas counterparts. Um, then after that, I said, what else do I need? And I went to a large bank and worked in there. I was a senior communications specialist there. I had needed experience. I didn't have
Yeah.
financial industry. Then I said, what else do I need? And I didn't have higher education experience. So I went to work doing marketing for a college, a university, actually. And that's when I stepped back. I got to that place. I guess could say I had another pivotal moment,
Hmm.
Deb.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I said, what makes you happy? And what
Wonderful.
made me happy
Yeah.
was not global publicly traded Fortune 500 companies where I am a little cog in a big wheel. And if I disappear tomorrow, the wheel keeps on grinding.
Hmm. Hmm.
I realized I like not being pigeonholed into one specific role, being a jack of all trades, moving more quickly because there are less layers of bureaucracy and approval processes, seeing direct impact of your work and taking the work to conclusion. So I went back to my roots and I went back to small to mid-sized manufacturing, industrial distribution companies. And that's really where I've been since.
I feel like we're clones of each other because I too got to those pivotal moments and realized what am I meant to do? Now, every move that I made was mostly strategic,
Mhm.
either sideways into a different industry or up for greater opportunities. But I think my biggest takeaway and my message to anybody that's listening is when those pivotal moments come, take the time to reflect on what should you do with that pivot. But also, Gina, what you also did at certain junctures along the way is you asked very important questions. You just said, what else do I need? Am I happy? Is this fulfilling X, Y, and Z? And take those moments to say either I stay or I create the future that I want. So kudos to you because again, I did the exact same thing. And so that's why you and I are resonating so much here. I got to ask some other questions. So I noticed in your bio or your background that you're the founder of the Manufacturing Resource Group, and I would love to know more about that because again, even though we know each other, I don't know much about that. And I'm very curious because I also serve in many cases the manufacturing sector.
Yeah, it's amazing. Once you become an entrepreneur, like it just replicates itself. I never considered myself an entrepreneur. And then when I went out and formed my own consulting firm and decided to try to do that full time,
Mm.
all of a sudden I start seeing other opportunities because I'm no longer in that mindset of an employee. I'm in that mindset of an owner, and I'm in growth mode. I'm not in status quo mode. So what happened was I'm doing my consulting business, and it's this year, I got to be honest, and I'm sure a lot of people out there listening, it's been a rough year for everybody.
Mm.
It's high inflation, election year. A lot of companies were getting fiscally conservative this year, waiting for November. And so everything I was hearing was, we're waiting for November. We don't have the budget. Let's circle back Q1 2025. We need to see which way the legislation's going to go, especially in manufacturing. Um, and now there's the fear of the tariffs coming and the longshoreman strike that's pending in January, supply chain disruptions. So I looked at my barrier to entry. and I'm going to all these networking meetings, and I'm seeing things through the lens of Lean Six Sigma, because once you see Lean Six Sigma, you kind of can't unsee it. And I'm looking at what everybody does and realizing we all do the same thing. We all do process improvement for our clients. And then I'm looking and seeing people shake out into two different buckets. I'm seeing the people who save manufacturers money, or any company's money, they work with non-manufacturers too, and people who make them money. So the savings people might be supply chain people, ops people, Schooley Mitchell folks, utility auditors, operations people, Lean Six Sigma people. They look to free up capital you didn't know you were losing, to renegotiate contracts, to find better vendors, so that you have cash that isn't being lost, that you can then reinvest into your business. And then the people who make money are the fractionals, the salespeople, the rev ops, the marketing people. And so I'm looking at my bucket, and my greatest barrier to entry was budget. And I said, what if I form a consortium of service partners who can go into an engagement with a company together and provide a holistic suite of services that can be a cyclical approach where we can go in, save the manufacturer or B2B company money they didn't know they were losing, free up that capital that they can reinvest to hire the people who can make them money, and they didn't have to allocate any existing budget to that project. And then they're saving money and they're making money and generating leads so that their bottom of funnel never taps out and that they don't ever have cash flow problems. And the other thing I did with that consortium is I am a giver. I'm very mission based. I believe if I do the right thing, the money will come. I put people first. And so I looked for people who were like that. And I don't work with assholes. And I made sure I pulled together a team of people who are truly good, caring people who do the right thing and aren't there to steal and take money and use people. And they have become like a family. So we met all summer long, got our website up, our logo, bought our domains. I registered as a DBA with the state, and our website went live in October. And now we've been working since then to promote our myriad of services. There are about 20 to 30 people in that consortium, and they all offer every service you could possibly imagine that could help an industrial company.
Oh my God, that's absolutely amazing. Thank goodness I have you in my network because again, as I navigate and work with different business leaders, you build trust. I do the value added work, and then they say, Deb, I got a problem over here. Who do you know? And
Mhm.
then, they trust people like me. And I say, let me give Gina a call. And actually, you and I are already doing a little bit of that already.
Mhm.
That's absolutely fascinating. But let me just ask a slightly different question. So let's describe the person or entity. Like, who is the person that is feeling uncomfortable, and what is the problem that they're experiencing for which you can solve it? And again, maybe weave in
Mhm.
a story, because if there's, I actually probably have a lot of small and medium sized business leaders listening to this, or people that know them. So, again, what is the situation for which you drop in and help them?
Well, I kind of I want to address something that you just said, which was um, how you look at an organization holistically.
Mhm.
And that's something I do that typical B2B marketers don't do. So I am actually presenting a proposal to a potential client next week. And I asked questions and I dug deeper. They wanted to hire me to rebuild their website and do SEO for them so that they could get organic traffic to their website and do a little bit of lead generation. And I said, they told me they wanted X number of new clients every year for 5 years. And I said, okay, what about after 5 years? Well, we're going to retire. I said, okay, are you closing the business or selling the business? Well, we don't know. We're talking about probably selling it. I said, do you have a succession plan in place? No. I asked, why do you only want X number of new customers each year for 5 years? Why would you not want triple that number of customers? So in the process of digging, I was like, you need to talk to an M&A person. It takes 3 to 5 years to prepare a business for sale. You can't wait till 5 years from now and decide you're going to sell it and think you're going to get a good dollar for it. I said, you also maybe need to talk to a sales coach because they could probably help you really grow your revenue above what you're just looking for. Or you could come in as a fractional and have somebody, if you don't have the bandwidth to take on more business, a fractional can come in and help you. That's not something a marketing person usually looks at. So I've been doing that with them. And so your question was, can you rephrase your question to
Because
me
what
again?
it is what is the pain, what is the
Pain.
typical situation or scenario for which people have asked for your services? What are you trying to solve? But I think what I'm hearing is it's so much
Yes.
bigger than just the marketing element.
It's a good example that I just gave you because often the gateway drug is the website. They start with, I need a website. My website's 20 years old. It needs SEO. It needs content. It needs to be rebuilt. Well, they need a lot more than that. But where I find clients starting is at the end of the process with lead gen. And that's where I pull out my Lean Six Sigma. And I say, okay, Lean Six Sigma is process improvement. Would you dream up a product you want to manufacture tonight and go on your shop floor and start making it tomorrow? No. You would put the four P's in place. You do your research, your pricing, your people, everything that you need to make sure that product manufacturing succeeds. Why would you set me up for failure and hire me to go to the end of the process, which is lead generation, when you have no foundation, you haven't started the process? So most of my clients, I shouldn't say most, not exclusively, are small to mid-sized manufacturers, usually 50 million or less, usually 100 people or less. They don't have an in-house CMO. They often don't have a marketing department. And so where they really need to be often is to have a foundational marketing strategy. Most of them do not have a CRM. They're still using an Excel spreadsheet. We cannot track ROI and conversion and buyer journey with an Excel spreadsheet. We need a CRM. We also need to be able to nurture people and do nurture sequences and marketing automation. Bring them into the top of the funnel, nurture them through that funnel to the point of conversion. So I usually back out from lead gen and say, for me to succeed and for you to show an ROI on any lead gen work, we need to have a strong foundation or the house of cards is going to fall. Why would you drive traffic to a website that's a piece of garbage that people are going to bounce from and they're not going to fill out a form because your website isn't going to capture them? It doesn't provide any value. So I hope that answers your question. I usually am pulled in for that end of process, and I usually have to go back to the beginning of process. And that's usually the pain. They don't understand marketing, sometimes don't see the value of it, see it as a cost center rather than a revenue generator, because digital agencies have taken large amounts of money and scratched the surface and often not provided value. And it's taught them to be,
Skeptical?
yeah, skeptical, suspicious of marketing people. And they think that all they need is sales. Manufacturers are very bottom of funnel
I
focused.
know.
They are sell organizations. But what inevitably happens, and this is your pain, Deb, that you asked me about, what I always see happen, the bottom of funnel taps out. The salespeople have no more leads, they have no cash flow, and then they panic and they come to the marketing people to try to work miracles and generate a bunch of qualified leads for them in a very short period of time because they need sales. And marketing is a long game. It's not sales, it's relationships. And it should be in place the entire time so that funnel never taps out. You shouldn't be getting into an emergency. You shouldn't need a Hail Mary.
No, I so agree with you. And again, that's why you and I are on this podcast together. We are building relationship, you and I. We are building relationship with whomever is
Yes.
listening, because I want people to know that, ooh, Gina is not like the regular marketing people. And it's really about relationship building, because I am so turned off of people that say, hey, I can make you this amount. I get so much through LinkedIn. It's such garbage.
Hmm.
But now I have found, just even meeting you and in the last 2 months, creating sincere relationships, and like you say, pay it forward. How can I help you be successful? And the belief that we will be top of mind when they say, okay, I've got my sales program in place, I've got the right processes in place. I need to amp up my game in the marketing. Now, I got a quick question though, but do you find that you potentially lose business because you actually point them in a different direction? Or do you become the conduit for bringing new people in and you maintain that relationship and then you come in later? How has it worked for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think my goal is not just to get business. My goal is to become your trusted partner. And if I'm doing what's in that company's best interest, they know that they can trust me. And
Mhm.
I did turn a client away and I never did get business from them. And they're still friends of mine. What happened is they wanted me to do lead gen for them. And I came in and I said, first, let's do a sales and marketing assessment, which also is not typical of digital agencies. I go in, I interview the entire sales team. I look at sales process, sales playbook, sales cycle, sales training. Are your salespeople engineers and machinists who've come up from the shop floor who are technically brilliant and can talk about specifications of a product, but they haven't been trained how to convert and close? So my marketing is only going to be as good as your sales, which is again why Deb and I connect. And so I did that. And I went in the process of interviewing their sales team, and I also did voice of customer work and interviewed 3 to 5 of their customers. I found out that so many things were broken.
Mm.
The sales team hated the company. The top salespeople were aging out with no succession plan in place. They were promising their customers 3-month delivery times on this $1 million piece of equipment and delivering in 18 months with no communication along the way. And I said, in good faith, I cannot do lead generation for you. I cannot generate more customers who are going to hate you, that you're not going to be able to provide product to. You need to fix what's broken, or you're going to be out of business in 3 to 5 years. So I introduced them to an HR nonprofit that helped them with their succession plan and their culture issues. I introduced them to their local manufacturing extension partnership and their ops people who could help with the plant floor issues. I did not take the marketing engagement. And what ended up happening is the owner just told me recently, this was about a year and a half, maybe 2 years, about 2 years ago. They turned the company around, fixed what was broken, and actually sold it. Someone bought the company because it was so successful. He now is still there as president for an interim as the transition's taking place. But the new company that bought them is a larger company that has its own marketing team. And so they do not need marketing. But I did the right thing. I did the right thing. And yeah, I lost $70,000 in the process, but that company still exists. And I have a friend for life.
Oh my God, such a great story. That's why you and I resonate so much. And yeah, and we're going to stay in touch with each other because I just think that there's a synergy. And again, I'm in and out of manufacturing companies. Yes, I solve quality and operational efficiency issues, but I do the exact same thing. They tell me what is the tip of the iceberg and what they want, and I see that. But then I go in with multiple lenses, just like you. I may look at an operations perspective, a quality perspective, a environmental health and safety perspective, the lean perspective, and I can't help myself to say, well, yeah, we do need to fix this problem. And here's my suggestion, but you might want to consider this, this, and this, because the people part, the process part, everything is so connected if you want a sustainable result. And so those that take my advice, I would be happy to say, just like you, are very successful. Others that don't, probably just continue to do things as they were and don't realize the same success. So I appreciate, your approach that it's about for the good of the organization and not necessarily our bottom line.
I think honestly, those are my best partners, are people who look at organizations holistically. Like I have a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt that I'm friends with. And a Master Black Belt goes in and looks at every area of the organization, not just the plant floor. They're looking at HR, accounting, operations, marketing, sales, and how can we improve this organization holistically? And he said, inevitably, he finds that manufacturers aren't doing marketing or they're not doing it right. And he needed a strategic partner that he could pull in, that he could say, when I find this problem, I have someone I can plug in to solve that problem for you. And so, because I have my green belt and my yellow belt in Lean Six Sigma, and I'm working on my black belt, there's also that partnership. He can say, not only is she a marketer, she's a Lean Six Sigma green belt and she gets it. and he can bring me in on a project. And the same thing with salespeople, the same thing with cyber security people and data analysts. They see the organization holistically and they see when they have a need outside of just what they do and what their area of expertise is.
So, I'm just going to have one more reaction to what you're sharing here because we're going to bring this to a close real soon. Is that I value people like Gina in my network because if I can't solve a particular business issue, and I think it's in the realm of sales and marketing, I can pull in Gina as well. But I guess for my leaders out there, as you think about, looking at the tip of the iceberg, you might feel pain over in your manufacturing process, or your customers are starting to complain, or your salespeople are coming to you and complaining that you guys can't deliver. Take a holistic approach. Yes, bring in somebody that technically has the background. But when you're seeking a partner, find somebody that, like Gina or myself, that looks at your entire operations and can get a feel for what maybe you can't see. Because if you got a problem that's manifesting in one place, the source may actually be in other preceding places. And like whack-a-mole, you got to get to the source or the root cause such that you can permanently resolve the issues and realize sustainable growth, whatever your goal is. So it's been a pleasure, Gina, but I'd love to give you the floor one last time for any last closing thoughts. And for people, how can they get a hold of you? Because I suggest you get to know Gina. She's amazing.
Thank you. I guess my parting words of advice, I would say for CEOs in the manufacturing space, I know we're still struggling. I recognize the elephant in the room. Manufacturing's in a recession. There's the whole tariff issue coming up. There's the probable longshoreman strike in January. And it's not just for manufacturers. All of you out there who aren't manufacturers, supply chain disruptions like that affect us all. It causes price increases. And who did those get passed on to? The consumer. So it's of urgency to everyone. And I think I would watch that, watch what's going on in your world, get involved in legislation, get involved on a local level because you can make an impact and a difference. Um, Entrepreneurs, I know it's been a hard time this past year. Just keep going, don't give up, don't quit. What goes down comes up. And I think 2025 is really going to make some changes. Um, and people are going to start spending, businesses are going to start spending because the election's finally over and they know which way the landscape is going to be economically, the legislation climate. Um, and then for marketing people, my last advice would be put tools in your toolkit that aren't just marketing tools. My whole career, I was learning how to do video editing and learning AI and learning this and learning all these CRMs and learning all this software. What made me more valuable was when I learned to speak the language of other people other than marketers. So when I learned Lean Six Sigma and I could speak the language of manufacturing, when I got my Sandler sales training and I learned how to speak the language of salespeople, because often it's the Tower of Babel. You're in a room with a salesperson and a CEO, and the CEO speaks the language of CEOs, and the salesperson speaks the language of sales, and the marketing person speaks the language of marketing, and you're all speaking a different language. But when you can speak their language and earn their respect and speak to them in their terms, you have a better, more sustainable partnership. And if you ever want to talk more about that, the ways you can reach me, I am on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find there because my name is not very common. My website is Barracuda, like you see behind me. Uh, the letter B, the number two, and the letter B.com, barracudab2b.com. And my email is Gina, Gina, at barracudab2b.com. And I'm happy to help anybody and do a discovery call. And even if you want a sounding board and you want to bounce something off me, feel free to reach out. I love to grow my network.
All right, Gina, you have been an amazing guest. This is not the end of our relationship. Again, the beauty of the network starts with this podcast, but continues in service to our clients. So I just want to say thank you. You've been an amazing guest, and I wish you well and continued success.
Thank you.